Your Royal Highnesses, Eminences, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, thank you very much for the invitation by the Pontifical Academy of Social Sciences, and congratulations to such an important seminar. This seminar is historical, and I'm honored to be part of this day. Together through dialogue, we can really accomplish something. First, let me say that today my thoughts are also, and especially with the children and their families who lost and who lose their lives in the Mediterranean. I think, as we heard before, that refugees are very vulnerable to the situations we will discuss today, and not least alone coming children, which is an increasing phenomenon we see in my country, and a group which I think is especially vulnerable to trafficking in human beings and sexual abuse. Dear colleagues, the Convention on the Rights of the Child has been ratified by nearly every country in the world. Sweden will strengthen children's rights further by incorporating the Convention into Swedish legislation. So far, of course, relevant legislation, relevant parts of the Convention has been transformed into legislation, but now we will incorporate the whole Convention into Swedish legislation. However, the rights of children are violated every day in the world. The UN estimates that around 1.2 million children are victims of trafficking. Children are treated like narcotics or weapons, a commodity in the criminal underworld. Boys and girls are being sold, and sadly, the real figure is presumably far higher than the UN estimates. Also, the internet crimes pose new challenges and complicated challenges to us, as Her Majesty pointed out. According to Article 35 of the Convention on the Rights of the Child, state parties shall take all appropriate national, bilateral and multilateral measures to prevent the abduction of, the sale of, or the trafficking of children for any purpose or in any form. All children, girls and boys, have a right to be protected from human trafficking. In addition, many countries have also ratified the optional protocol to the Convention on the Sale of Children, Child Prostitution and Child Pornography. The protocol demands the state parties to take necessary measures to criminalize and prosecute every form of sale of children. Ever since the First World Congress Against Commercial Sexual Exploitation of Children held in Stockholm in 1996, the work against trafficking has been high on the Swedish agenda. I am here today to speak about Sweden's policies to combat trafficking and protect children's rights. Since 1999, it is prohibited to buy sexual services in Sweden. The criminalization of sex purchases has had a mitigating effect on the demand for sexual services and has also served as a barrier to traffickers and buyers to establish a market for selling women, girls and boys for sexual purposes in Sweden. The Chancellor of Justice, Ms. Garhed, will elaborate on this later. We see in Sweden the protection of children against violence and abuse and prostitution as a question of human rights, gender equality, and sexual and reproductive health and rights. Boys, girls, women and men have the right to know about their rights, to bodily integrity, and to information. These issues have also been very important in the creation of the Swedish welfare state. Experience tells us that the strengthening of rights and equal opportunities of women, men, boys and girls, combined with well-developed social systems, childcare, elderly care, contribute to a high labor market participation of both women and men, and better economic conditions for all, and to economic growth. When it comes to trafficking in children, the overall objective for the current action plan, which is the 4th Swedish action plan, is that no child should be a victim of trafficking, exploitation, and sexual abuse, obviously. The plan is expected to lead to increased awareness among government agencies and professionals, and of course among children themselves, which we find very important. It's also very important to listen to children and to talk to children. Increased effectiveness in the work of government and other relevant stakeholders to protect children from these violations. And thirdly, enhanced contributions by Swedish authorities to international cooperation on protecting children. The government has given the Stockholm County Administrative Board the assignment to coordinate on a national level the work against human trafficking in Sweden. The board has created a structure to combat trafficking and should coordinate the work with important stakeholders, such as municipalities, county councils and authorities, civil society, and disseminate knowledge and methods related to combating child trafficking and exploitation. Collaboration with hotels, taxis, restaurants, and international exchange is also part of the assignment. As an example, we arranged a national information campaign, Bring Your Travel Courage, in collaboration with Swedish Police and World Childhood Foundation, to raise awareness on sexual exploitation in conjunction with tourism and travel. The aim is to get Swedes who travel abroad for the holidays to contact the police if they see something they suspect to be child sex tourism. We have a responsibility, legal and moral, to protect children from acts of sexual abuse or exploitation committed by persons who are resident in our country, regardless of where such acts took place. The action plan also consists of measures like distributing tailored information to children victims of crime and training material to professionals, as well as co-acting with the European Union and other countries. Sweden is actively working to identify interested countries to make bilateral agreements of cooperation to combat child sex tourism. Even if our country has come a long way, we're not satisfied. The government is therefore preparing for a new action plan for the years of 2016 to 2018. Our prevention work, for instance, has to be better. One example of what we have done, a very concrete one, is that the government supports a national telephone line for people, mostly men, who are about to commit a sexual crime to a child and know that this is wrong. And they can call this national line and speak to experts in medicine and psychiatry and get advice how not to commit this crime. This is not instead of the legal system, that's important to point out. It's just one measure of prevention. The government in Sweden's aim is to start a continuous dialogue on the highest level between stakeholders, policymakers, and experts globally. Our purpose is to continuously, whenever possible, put trafficking and the protection for our children on the international political agenda. Sweden will continue to strengthen the rights and improve children's living conditions through both bilateral and multilateral development cooperation. The new development agenda, the post-2015 agenda, is a good opportunity for this, and a strong children's rights perspective and a gender perspective will be very important for Sweden in the process ahead of us. To conclude, before I was appointed a minister, I was head of a UN agency in Latin America. I saw lots of progress there when it comes to economy and human rights. But I could also see that there and elsewhere, the combination of poverty, social injustice, unemployment, and gender inequality together contribute to the vulnerability of poor children and their families. It is